Start the recording.
What recording?
Well, he recorded it just. So, start the recording, and it is 12:24. Thank you all very much for being here on a Sunday. I think it says a lot for our neighborhood council that we can pull this off on a weekend like this. And we want to make sure that we honor all our respective religions out there. We made it so it was important to do it on a Sunday. So, with that said, just kind of want to remind you that we're going to have kind of free-form conversation, but we definitely don't want to dominate that conversation by an individual or a group or whatever. So we're going to use a 2-minute time limit on our comments. And try very much to get out of here by 3 o'clock, if not earlier. And that's a great reminder.
Silence your phone.
Yep. And I actually did that on purpose. So, with that said, today's focus in our meeting is to talk about our participation in committees and the importance of civic engagement in knowing the community and so that we can do our jobs better. One of the things that I have heard in quite a few different meetings that I've been to over the last few weeks, one of which was the Congress that occurred yesterday, was that the neighborhood council really survives in your ability to understand and advocate for your community. So it kind of puts us at a place where we need to be out there so that we can represent ourselves in the best possible light, so that our Northwest San Pedro Neighborhood Council gets their money's worth, with what we do for them. Now, I heard a rumor that they are actually going to give us a 50% raise in our wages at the neighborhood council level. So watch out for that in your next paycheck, okay? But remember, we do this voluntarily. But this is something that we do because we feel that there's a need. We feel that there's a place in our heart to represent and to advocate for. And that is so important. So we're going to kind of talk a little bit about that and see what we feel is a good thing to see where we're going to be at the end of our year, our neighborhood council year, to see if we've been successful in representing our community as we should. We have the very well-known and expert in the field of facilitation and getting us engaged and watching our collective P's and Q's. And so I'm going to introduce our facilitator, and he's going to keep us honest. And I see a hand up. Yes, ma'am. Oh, yeah. Well, I was going to let him introduce himself, and then we'll do roll call and everything like that. Yeah, thank you for that. So let's let our facilitator introduce himself.
Do my credentials. Okay. Well, good morning. Good afternoon. It's morning somewhere, I'm sure. Gary De La Rosa. I am currently a graduate of the city of Los Angeles. I prefer not to say retirement. I graduated, so I can now do things I like to do. And one of them is to continue to be a community advocate. So some of you know, maybe remember my credentials. I've been involved with neighborhood councils since they began, when I was with the Human Relations Commission. And I facilitated and held meetings for organizing, developing bylaws, etc. for the last, 24 years now. So I did work with the city of Los Angeles Human Relations Commission. Before that, I was an educator in LUSD. taught history and government. You know, that class that most people check out of in October of their senior year, right? And by osmosis, we figure that you know what this is all about. Okay? And if you've been following the news lately, civics has become a big target issue. Time Magazine, New York Times, LA, etc., about what do we know about civics. Okay? So it's a very important piece of what a democratic society is supposed to be about. And that's why I still continue to be a community advocate, to try to help folks do that, try to help people to have their meetings so that we can be constructive and do good works. And as Ray mentioned, represent your communities. Communities as in plural. That's one of the things that, as a human relations advocate, we wanted to make sure it was covered. So again, I've done a lot of I've done councils from the west end of the San Fernando Valley down to here. So I've had a good opportunity to see and observe, and I still believe, as I did back in 99, 2000, when we got into this guys to start helping this process, that there's a good opportunity for groundroots democracy in the neighborhood council system. So that's who I am, and I will help you hopefully get through this with some good results.
So we're going to start our agenda with item number 1. We'll welcoming all the students that are here. We have a couple, 3 students in the background there. We're going to go ahead and start off with roll call.
John Barbera is absent. Vic Christensen here. John DeMiglio. Larry Eaton. Here. Craig Goldfarb. Here. Cynthia Gagne. Here. Gwen Henry. Present. Melanie Lebrecht.
Present.
Kelly Miller. Here. Abby Norman. Here. Thomas Norman. Here. Ray Regalado.
Here.
Michael Signorelli, I think, is absent. Yep.
How is he absent if we're in here?
He made arrangements to make sure that we were covered.
Angela Sumner.
Here.
Chris Valle.
Here.
Is Michael still off medically?
No, he's back to work.
Oh, he is, okay.
Okay, so we've got 13.
Are the absences excused?
We're not characterizing this just here or not here.
Today you're not doing that?
Yeah.
Right.
Okay, we're going to go to agenda item number 2, which is general public comment. So remember, we have 2 minutes, and for whoever may have a general public comment. So anyone like to? Are you waiting to be below, or do you want to make a public
General
comment?
public comment? You want me to come to the mic?
Yeah. Call him Mike.
Yeah, there is no mic.
Mike's absent.
So speak loud with your outside voice.
My outside voice. Yeah, I think everybody knows me, but I'm Doug Everhart. I'm the commissioner on the Board of Neighborhood Commissioners who represents the Harbor area. Big shoes, we're very big shoes to fill, but, you know. So Tuesday, the day after tomorrow, the Board of Neighborhood Commissioners will be meeting at Anderson Senior Center.
Oh, wow.
San Pedro, 2 blocks south of Sirens.
Thank you.
At 6 p.m. And one of the things we have on our agenda is to hear from neighborhood councils in the Harbor area regarding best practices. So I'm hoping that somebody from this council will attend the meeting and tell us about all the great stuff you're doing. Okay? That, I think, is about it. Oh, and I'll have some Halloween candy. It's going to be the 1st of October.
Thanks, Doug.
Yeah, I can probably go to that, right, because I'm handing over my sister on Tuesday.
Any other public comments?
Okay. I'm making a note here for Tuesday. Please, if you all can make it, as many of you as you can, be there. I think that you'll see a cast of characters there sitting up at the front, and they're all really good people and very dedicated people. So with that, I don't see any other hands, so we're going to close out agenda item number 2, and we're going to move on to kind of the meat of the, yes. This is public comment?
Yes, public comment.
Okay.
So it just happens to be that Holy Trinity is going to have a public safety meeting. It's called Faith in Blue. I believe it's on October 11th.
Yeah.
The right date. And not Holy Trinity. Our SLO will be there, but there will be the other SLOs. Now, I don't know if you guys remember the big meeting that happened here. It was during the first presidential debate. It was poorly attended because they scheduled that well after all of the senior lead officers and a lot more representation had put great effort into organize something here at Pet Park. They're going to do one at Holy Trinity, and I hope that all of you could possibly go there. I'm going to be moving off. This is a personal thing. This is not NWSPNC Neighborhood Council, but I'm going to be moving off a neighborhood watch for the area. That kind of went defunct, but anyone who lives in the area from Western to Dandini, from Sutherland to a few streets past First Street, so it'd be about, I think it's about 3rd and 5th Street. There's an area over there. It borders the Mary Star neighborhood watch area. So on the southern side, but hopefully you can attend that as well.
It's 9 a.m. to 12 p.m. at Mary Star Church.
Yeah. Holy Trinity? No.
Holy,
This is the Holy Trinity.
or Holy Trinity, excuse me. Is it Holy Trinity?
What's it called? Faith and Blue. Faith and Blue.
Faith and Blue. They do it every year.
Bologna just...
Yeah, Holy Trinity Church, 1292 West Santa Cruz Street, from 9 a.m. to 12 p.m. on the 11th.
But if you missed that other gathering most people did, this is probably a good way to revive that. The other is, of course, the area will be there. Time to discuss things as well. You know, we just had that shooting down on Gaffey and other shenanigans, so yeah, we still have a lot to watch for and build on.
Okay, great, thank you. Any other comments? Okay, last call. All right, now we're moving on to agenda item number 3. The importance of committees and their assignments. I'm going to go ahead and let Gary kind of introduce the subject matter so that we can have kind of a round table of discussion. This meeting is going to be mostly talking about these things and how we can engage and how we can get involved and how we can make sure that, we hold ourselves to the standard that our bylaws ask us to hold ourselves accountable for. So, Gary?
Okay. First question, how many of you have your bylaws in front of you?
They don't. I can answer that for you.
You know what? We have some that you want to share.
We have a few copies people can share.
Anybody want a copy? Nobody wants a copy?
Abby wants one.
Yes, I have one more. So everybody else has their bylaws?
I'll take one.
Okay.
Share it. I made myself just
Okay. So, what is the purpose of the bylaws? Anybody?
Orderly rules. I'm supposed to raise my hand.
Go ahead.
To run an orderly meeting that's efficient and without violating all sorts of.
Yes.
Bylaws are basically a roadmap for how you run your meetings and how you run your neighborhood council and your committees and stuff. You use that as basically the framework of the guidelines for them.
Okay. Anybody else? Okay. Well, they play an important role, obviously, because if you're setting up your agenda, this should tell you how it's done, right?
Yep.
Can't tell you how many meetings I've done where people are arguing about how the agenda is done, but they've never looked at their bylaws. Right? And when I bring it up, it's like, what? We have bylaws? You should do that. So the piece that we should be looking at here, of course, is the importance of committees and assignments. And it seems that the work of this neighborhood council is impactful through their committees. Would you agree, disagree? Just bob your head, let me know you're there.
Yes.
All right. So we're looking at here is, how do you engage the attendees in identifying the importance of committees? So what is the importance of the committees? Okay. Do you know? Do we understand? Do people who walk in, and hopefully one day there'll be a lot of people walking in, do they understand what the committees are about? What functions does the committee play? What's that interaction? And then we're going to go back and we're going to start looking at a sheet here somewhere, who is on your committees, okay, and how those committees should be run. Question or point?
No, I thought you were asking the question.
Well, we're going to start asking questions. Okay, so let's take a look at what is the most important aspect of a committee for the neighborhood council. Yes.
Is it the preliminary work or have something that's introduced before it goes to the bigger board? So they can do some background investigation.
Okay. Good, that's a step.
Yeah,
How do you get to that step?
by engaging the community is what's important.
You're a conduit to your communities, right? Or is it just a community? Who are your communities?
For stakeholders,
Who are they?
Within our boundaries.
who are they? They're the people that we represent.
So I'm new, I'm walking in, I want to know, who are your communities? Is it a community of one section,
No.
one block, one voting group? Is it multiple?
Well, technically, we're responsible for our boundaries of our community for stake as, as representatives of Northwest San Pedro Neighborhood Council. But that being said, you always should be engaging your whole community, even other neighborhood councils, to work with them as well as be a conduit for everything.
Democracy in action. Agree or disagree with that? Agree. A commissioner just asks you to come down and give your best practices, right? That's engaging with other neighborhood councils. And in the early stages, when we had that very first meeting down at the Greek church down in the city, that was one of the things that was brought up. You should be able to engage and help and discuss with other parts of the city. Okay? So, what is community interaction? What does that look like? Can you do that just from home on a computer?
You're out, you're
That could be
engaging.
part of it.
You can.
Excuse me?
It can be part of it in terms of going where people are. So if people are online, you go online. If people are in person, you go in person.
So, the key part.
It's a tool that clearly, such as East Day, actually interacting with people, having discussions.
Real interaction with people. Okay, so those are two aspects of it.
Attending meetings,
It's a,
other meetings, in the city meetings to find out what, the scope of things are as far as what the needs are for the community and stuff, and you can get that, you can get like a general idea if you're, say, for instance, like me, I'm public safety chair. I go to CPAB, I go to some of the other meetings in the community to make sure that I have the information I need for my committee and also to share with the rest of the stakeholders and the board.
great. So, yeah, go ahead.
We call this conduit. So I feel that the responsibility is to stay well informed on what's happening locally, what's happening outside our general local, what's happening in the city, and in some cases even larger communities, so that we can continue to inform and educate our stakeholders, to be able to answer questions, and most importantly, to know all sides of conversations, pro and con.
Oh, multiple sides of conversations. So that's one of the aspects of community the engagement that's important, right? As a human relations advocate, it's a little bit different in our job. But my job is not only to know who's on in this group and who's at these tables, but to also know who's not here and not being represented. That was my job as a human relations advocate. And that is a tool that you could use to help the city, quote, unquote, that larger part, your community and the city, to know what are some of the things that are happening out there that we're not aware of. Okay? So being civically engaged, in this case, going out and talking to people or listening, that's a good one, right? Going to the market, you in your position, you're being a civic advocate because you're out there, right? And that's part of it. It's true that some folks can't get out, so you can use social media, but does that cover everybody? No. And just going out to the market cover everybody? Kind of depends on what market. Right? So we are dependent on you, right? In terms of looking at civic engagement, of being kind of broad-minded about that, and being like that sponge that picks up stuff. We talked about public safety. Melanie, I was up in Oakland this week, and I was watching the news, and they did something very interesting. One of the problems they have up there in Oakland is that folks won't slow down for people who come up to the crosswalk.
Mm-hmm. We have that here.
Yeah, right? So what did they do? Like, they got a police officer dressed up as a chicken. And so he's at the corner, and he sees a car coming, and he steps forward, and the car goes, and then all of a sudden you see a cop bike, and they give him a ticket. But they were out there letting people, hey, I'm a target, I'm here, you can see me. But it was a way of spreading that idea, or the issue, that you just said, that we have here too. These are some interesting ways. I wouldn't recommend you go out in a chicken outfit, but it was an interesting way for them to try to engage the public that this is a huge issue. Okay. What else can civic engagement, you being active in your neighborhood? What can that look like? What should that look like? What could you perhaps make it look like? Rick?
You mentioned something in passing as you were going around getting examples of what different communities we represent. And the thing that kind of got me, on top of representing communities, but also advocating for those communities, is part of the importance of these committees. We're advocating for things that they need. And if I can, I had a conversation with a community member who was being very, very critical of the very many homeless individuals we find on our streets, and they find themselves parked, in a particular place, or camping in a particular place. But I have to remind everybody that while they're in Northwest San Pedro, they are our community members also.
Yeah.
And we need to be able to advocate for them. Not to mention the fact that every month we have our senior lead officer here. He's a member of our community as a member of government, our electeds and things like that. So our communities aren't what we think it is, the obvious. It's those other people who we find that we interact with all the time. They are our community members that we, in my opinion, have an obligation to advocate for and to represent. I'll leave it.
Thank you. Any thoughts?
Yes, and to maybe expand on what Ray was saying, and it brings up a really, I think, important critical point for us amateur elected officials, is that people who take on kind of more, they take on public offices with a bit more gravity and more power, whatever, they understand, especially through the process of election, like, you're not there for you. Like, you're not there to do your own personal business. You're not there because you have a personal axe to grind. Hopefully not anyway. But when you conceptualize who your constituency is supposed to be, It has to include people you disagree with, people you don't like, people you would rather just didn't exist. And if you can't represent them, then what's the point of, like, you don't have to make peace with your friends, right? So you have to go into this or any other, kind of quote-unquote leadership or advocate situation, saying, if I can't work for the people who don't want me here, then what am I supposed to, what can I actually really do? So, like, casting the widest net possible and including the people who are, often invisible, I think is kind of the first thing you need to consider, because anybody could represent people who already are on board with them, right?
That's a good point. Yes.
And one thing, too, when we're out there for community, our community can extend outside of San Pedro, too, of people that happen to all of a sudden end up being placed in our community because of a circumstance. For example, I had my home tends to be the dumping ground for stolen goods for some reason lately. And I had 3 wallets dumped in my yard. And LAPD had said, and Officer Valonia had a conversation with him, he says, you know a lot of people, and through being on neighborhood council, you have a lot of contacts. If you take these wallets to the police station, they're just going to log them and hold on to them. If you feel personally strongly about making sure that they get back to these people, why not use some of your ways of outreach to see if maybe you can locate them? They were all elderly people within Rancho PV, Palos Verdes, and throughout that area. They all came to my house to pick up their wallets. I found all 3 of them, and they were like, oh my God. But it's being that extra, being that representative of the community, and you have to do that because sometimes the police's hands are tied as to what they can do and how far they can extend it to do for people. And sometimes being that extra to help the government agencies, to help different agencies, like what Lori does with some of the homeless stuff on her own, extends, a little bit to help. Because the government agencies get overloaded and they can't do that. That's part of our job as being advocates for the community.
Would others agree with that part of the job, or is it just good advocacy?
Well, yeah, generally you get feedback, and people complain, they complain to a particular person, but it's just bottles of complaint. It's not actually facilitating the people who may address that complaint. So it is part of our job to know where to take that and solve the issue.
And that's an excellent point. Early on, again, they talked about these neighborhood councils being a place where I can go, as a community member, and say, hey, I have this issue, or, you know what, I can't see the stop sign in my neighborhood because of the tree. Who do I talk to? Those are very important things that you do. That's engaging in a very real way in your community and communities. Okay? Yes, ma'am.
And those are some of the things the committees can look up and come, and then engage in them, but we didn't have to bring it before the board. Something,
Okay.
about their friends and their neighbors about how we do.
Right, because one neighbor's issue may be other neighbors' issues, but they
Yep.
may not connect to, right? Okay, so how do you feel about your committee individually? How does it work? How does it reach out? Give some examples. Do I have to start naming them? This is not going on your permanent record, okay, so it's all right.
I'm the chair of youth and outreach, so that's literally it's in the title of what we do. And so, mostly through social media, but with public, in-person events and things like that, is that we do direct outreach and participate in either events that we produce or things that other people put on that we may sponsor or attend or whatever. But that's usually the most, like when we have a conversation with somebody from the community, whether they're visiting or whether they're kind of a permanent part of it, that's most often like a direct, like, how you doing, sign our mailing list, here's a pen or whatever.
So does your committee go through and look for things that are happening and then put it on?
Yeah, we pretty much every committee meeting we have, a discussion about upcoming events, and we always have an ear to the ground in terms of who's doing what that we might, and often, sometimes it's kind of check and sponsor something. A lot of times it's just bring our pop-up and set it up at their thing, and, we just are just physically there.
And your whole committee is involved?
Yeah, we have very good participation, and it's baked into membership of that committee. It's like, it's assumed it's pretty reasonable that like this is a committee that like physically does stuff, we go places.
Excuse me, sorry.
That's kind of the nature of what we do. But in addition, like the publications, whether it's the newsletter or social media or whatever, there's indirect and direct engagement.
Okay, so you said something, so I want to get a little more clarification. So if you're having a meeting and some people can't make it, what's the process?
Well, occasionally, it doesn't come up too often, but sometimes the board will have a special meeting or a town hall, and that obviously is just kind of subject to everybody's ability to attend. For youth and outreach in particular, at our committee meetings, we'll, have a sense of who will or won't be able to. We'll have sign-up sheets even that, who will be attending, what time slot they'll be there. If there's roles that have to be designated, which is not common, but, we usually have a sense, at least internally, of who will be there, what they're doing, and that sort of stuff.
So if I'm a member of your committee and I can't make it, what's expected of me?
Usually that you would contact either John Barbera or myself, and we have everybody essentially on a mailing list, so it's, if somebody's going to be absent, they'll let us know in advance.
And are those actions, are they in the bylaws?
I don't know specifically.
Yes, they are.
They are. Okay, good. All right.
We basically try to use the same standard that we would use for the board at large.
So, Lori.
John Barbera couldn't be here because he's ill, he gave a couple of things. So he's one of the co-chairs of the Issues Committee, and he and Dan Dixon routinely drive up and down all the streets. The Issues Committee is kind of like a dumping ground for something that doesn't fit another committee, so it can be a whole hodgepodge of things. So they drive around and see what they see, whether it be the sidewalk repair, tree trimming, or all kinds of things. But they also routinely ask the board if they have something that should be on the issues agenda that they see that, to please send it to them. So to me, they're one of the most active committees to actually go around town and specifically look for things. I think that's really important.
There's a legacy down here about that. You guys remember a council member named Han? Yeah, he was one of those guys that used to drive through his neighborhood and look for the potholes and stuff. And that was when he had a staff of what, 2, I think? Right? Over here. Melanie, you're up. And then we'll go with you.
Yeah, one of the problems, and even my own committee, so I'm not speaking about anybody else, but one of the biggest problems we have with our committees, all of them, it seems, is having a quorum. People showing up and being responsible for the committee they joined and showing up. I think that's the biggest thing, and the work can't get done if you don't have a quorum to vote on things and pass things through to send to the board. Or like budgetary things for youth and outreach to send to budget and finance so we can get them passed. I think it's our responsibility as chairs and also board members to make sure if you're on a committee, you try as hard as you can to be at that meeting every month, because that's where the work starts and where the work is done to bring to the board.
Well, I'll cut to you right now. I'm going to use I'm on a commission as well for the school district human relations. And, we meet once a month. So if those committees don't meet in the middle of the month, then that's a whole other month lost. So it goes from, we wanted an idea in January, we might not be able to, address it till March, maybe even later. So it's an impact when people don't show up, right? As is the responsibility, and I keep bringing that. We had our own retreat last weekend, and I brought that point up. You're here, you said you want to be here, that's your responsibility. You need to be here for those meetings. So, we worked last Sunday too, and we have to be accountable as well. So that's a big issue. I hear what you're saying. Yes?
As a committee member, and a board member, when I go shopping, I go to stores and I talk to the manager and I go to a couple of stores next door and ask them how they're doing. And are they having like a crime impact, or are they having rent increases in a lot of them, anything like that. And they'll tell you that they have problems. And then when I have new neighbors come in, I go to the neighbors and tell them what I do, and in my card, I said, if you want to come to a meeting, or a committee meeting, or anything, or if you have an issue, come to me, even to the mailboxes, I talk to people about it, so. They always talk to me just about the neighborhood council, I don't know how I'm doing it.
And then you bring that information to what, a committee or to this board?
I do it for both.
Okay.
Because I was told to go and talk to the businesses around here because we don't do that. So I've been doing that since I've been on the board. So they always know when I come in, they always say, hi, everything's okay. So as long as it's okay, I'm fine. But if they have an issue, then I handle it. Or I try to handle it.
The bottom line is engaging community, right, and outreach.
What
That
committee
you're
are you
making
bringing it
it
to?
very-
Because that would be public safety.
Do that when I came.
Huh?
Excuse me.
It would be
You're-
public safety.
Engaging folks, you're making this real, okay? It's one thing to have this and, you know, there's no other folks here. I don't know about your regular meetings. Do you get public coming in for your regular monthly
We
meetings?
have some, yeah.
Okay, but it'd be nice to have more, wouldn't it? And that's part of the heart and soul of what that engagement is. Those one-on-ones. Yeah.
I think, or I feel that the importance of having public meetings and people having access to it is exhibited, at least the importance is exhibited when every year, and I think other neighborhood councils will back me up on this, every year, the local high school send their students out to sit in the audience and listen to government at work. And recently we've gotten, I think, what did we get, about 60 at our last meeting?
Yeah,
55.
Doug, you had the same amount?
75.
So, and then Central also, I mean, I think it tells the community that we have a value here. There is a value, and we're teaching the young people. I'd like to say that Adrian, right back there, is a good example of...
I just asked him if that's how he learned about neighborhood councils from that. He said, yes.
Yeah, I mean, so, I won't let you know how old this very young man is, but he's engaging, and he's participating.
I see him at everything.
Yeah.
Can I talk about for a second on the suit thing? For the first time after our coastal meeting, actually I have emails from some of the students following up.
And their teacher thanked us for that presentation.
Yes.
Yeah, and to kind of expand on that, it's something that I think personally we're trying to make it a priority within the, aptly named Youth and Outreach Committee, that you talked about sort of broadening and, having a balance of representation. If you look around this room, there's, I think maybe, not to be too ambitious, there's maybe 3 people under 30 in this room. So if you fit the demographics for the people who attend most often, and you look for, or you need an opportunity to be heard or to hear from somebody, you're good. But it's really just as much our responsibility, like if you're 17 or if you're, 35 or whatever it is, and you have other things, other priorities or other things to take care of, that we're still working in those people's interest and trying to, normalize that there is a place for them, amongst the board or on committees or in any of the programs that we're involved in, or that just to normalize that the concept that being a volunteer is legitimate, that these things have value, and as I was saying, Doug and I were saying before, the only value they have is what you actually do when you get here. It's like sitting here in this room on a Sunday afternoon isn't inherently valuable, other than what we, use it to move toward. So we're trying to communicate that to people to say, if you show up and if you, put your drop in the bucket, then maybe we can get somewhere, but it's nothing but it's nothing more than that,
Okay. I may want to come back to that. Yes.
And so I agree a lot with what Chris has to say. As we look around the community, a lot of our community is under the average age of this group, right? And a lot of it's under 30. And I'm share with this excitement when we see the students come, and I'm always delighted when somebody like Adrian, gets involved and needs to be involved. The challenge, I kind of say is when we have this opportunity of 60, what are we doing to encourage them to come back when they aren't getting extra credit? And it's not part of their grade. I'm somebody who can do that. And I can manipulate a lot with 10 points of extra credit. It's kind of scary sometimes. What people will do for that. And I try not to abuse that. But I try to have the spirit of what would be of interest to that person that is actually a gift. Like, oh, I didn't know this existed, so now my life is richer. And so I want to challenge us to think of how do we, what's the next step? And we know we have these opportunities. I love what I heard from John in terms of email, so make sure we share the email or next steps. I try to promote people coming to our committee, like environmental report, because I think a lot are interested. We've had a few, but much fewer than I'd like, but all we can do is continue to add. So that's a theme I like. But going back to the larger group, one of the great things I love about this committee, and it's why I'm here, is when we would do athletics here, we saw that stakeholders used to be from 16 or up. And I'm looking at the bylaws that's actually given, they're out of date because we're forced to increase the age at which you can run to 18. And then yet I hear there's this big, interest in youth, and they created a whole other youth council, and we had our youth applicant apply for that, and she was denied as not worthy. So, she got rejected. So, I just want to call some of these things attention, if we really care about youth, I feel sometimes we get politicized. There's some leaders, I'm kind of learning some of the politics that want to talk about that, but there's also a group that didn't think 16 to 18-year-olds should sit in these positions that sometimes sit vacant, right? So my son Alec actually sat in one of those and kind of led me to get involved in this. And I would think the city of LA would be better if they went, and instead of raising it to 18, like we did, what if it was, if you allow the 16, 17-year-olds to sit for these geographic seats, I think the city of Los Angeles would be better off because we'd have a bit more diversity, and the Adrians of the world, sometimes would do just as much work as the average member here.
Yeah.
And why do you think that some folks thought 16, 17-year-olds weren't worthy?
I would think it would be ageism, right? In a sense that I don't know.
Don't know. Ours used to be younger.
Well, the reason I throw it up is sometimes people say, well, they don't know anything. I say, hey, I've got a lot of my friends out in school, they don't know anything either. You know what I mean? And
Lori can answer.
How many of us can pass this? How many of us can cite this? How many of you carry this with you? I'm a nerd, so. Oh, it's
What
the
is-
Constitution.
Oh,
I actually
wow.
have a box of them, I could have brought them and shared them with everyone.
Pass them out. And
I'll be done on the break.
that's a great thing. But I'll come right to you. But I'm also with you, because in my commission, we have Human Relations Awards for the schools, for things that they've done, not that teachers have led or whatever. And your school, here, I was going to use the real name, but I better not around here. That school has won awards every year, because there's students down there doing some good stuff, okay? And again, on their own, not somebody else down. But
High
you're
school.
right, your civics teachers, your high school, your history teachers, oh, you want to get some credit, go to that meeting, hang out, right? But what are they absorbing? What are they learning? And vice versa. So that's a good point. That's what we'll go here.
So a couple of good points. Thank you, Ray, for bringing up the students. So that we're here and we're setting an example. And sometimes the behavior on some of the board members are setting a horrible example. It's real life, but it's a horrible example. But after that last meeting, I contacted John Barbera, one of the co-chairs of Outreach, and I said, we're missing an opportunity. Years ago, I had written something, and we're going to update it. We discussed this on a half sheet. So when the students come in, it has a brief explanation of what a neighborhood council is, how they can speak on public comment, an email address if they want to ask questions. Okay, so, because it was a missed opportunity. When I heard Doug tell me that some students emailed about the presentation there, okay, these students, I've watched them, most of them are actually trying to be respectful and paying attention. They're not playing on the phones like some board members are. And I think that we really have an opportunity, and what's important is go to that long meeting because you have a chance to weigh in on the youth seat that they changed on us. Ours used to be, I believe it was 16 and 22, and then they made it mandatory that if you had a youth seat, it was 14 to 17, which then they can't even vote on financial things. And they now have a motion going out there making all neighborhood councils have a mandated youth seat, and they're going to tell us what the age is. And we did have a problem when we had a youth, where they changed the age, and she had to take the adult seat, and our adult, your son had to take the youth seat because he was too young to have the adult seat. So we should be autonomous, but you have an opportunity to advocate for what you want for a youth seat.
And again, committees have an
He's
impact.
pointing to me, but it's not the commission that's doing anything with
It's-
regard to mandating. We're taking information, but this is at city council, and they have a motion to ask the commission to come up with alternatives regarding these mandates. So any comment you make, direct to the city council first, but also make it known to the commission.
That's Tuesday.
I just want to clarify that. Don't come yelling at me, it's not my fault.
All right. Yeah, point?
Well, I do want to emphasize something that Tom said, that it is kind of frustrating that the city of Los Angeles, now, I grew up with a YMCA program called Youth in Government. It was the biggest eye-opener that I ever had. It was actually better than high school, and at the time that I went to high school, there was a civics program where you actually had a class where you learned the basics, which doesn't exist anymore. But Youth in Government was a program where kids actually went up to, and they still do this, go up to California, the Sacramento, and actually participate in the entire process.
Yep,
The
I did
entire
that when I
process.
was in high school.
And there are schools, you know, I know my neighbor's daughter participated in that at high school, but I don't know why the city of Los Angeles is not engaging in that way as well. They do have the mayor's, the mayor's youth council. They have some limited things, but this is very restrictive. And if anything, they should be encouraging and expanding on that. I'm really baffled. I'm really baffled by that. I hope that hopefully there's time before Tuesday that we can come up with something to vote on. But
And I would then put out that your committees and your neighborhood council make sure that they're on top of what civics is. Because again, this has been a concern for the last 3 weeks, popping up across the country. People pointing out, these folks don't know anything about civics. So I called up a friend of mine who had to become a U.S. or didn't have. She became a U.S. citizen, and I was asking her these questions. She was getting them right.
yeah.
Called up another friend of mine. He only got 5 of them right.
So, isn't the mayor's youth council that because they don't do youth government like we did in high school, like she said, go to Sacramento, be involved, learn about government, all of that. The mayor's youth council, isn't that like application, only certain people get selected for that? So it's not inclusive. It's not inclusive for all kids to learn.
And here's, okay, so real quick, and then I'm going to go to Ray. The thing that I learned as a young advocate and young activist, know where to go when you have a question or a complaint. I don't go to the mayor and complain about something that I should be going to the state assembly for.
Right.
I don't go to the Pentagon to complain about something when I was a kid. You probably know what we were complaining about. I needed to go to my Congress member. All right? So that's a piece that here, if you're that conduit, hey, we don't know everything, as we used to say in human relations, but we know people. Okay, I'm a people that knows people. And we gathered information so that when somebody came up with something, oh, wait a minute, I think this organization does it. So I think you guys have something good here, and as a commissioner for the school board district, I'm going to say off the record, bug the school districts, right?
Okay.
And you can.
Two things. I do not want to let this conversation go by without thanking Abby for all the work that she's done for our neighborhood council and the enthusiasm in which she has done the work. And we get to see, I think, the best of our community when we have people like Abby joining our neighborhood council. So thank you, Abby, for all the work that you've done. It really is appreciated. if I can, I kind of like to shift what engagement looks like, given the environment that you are in at the time. When I was a young person and I was watching neighborhoods burn around me in East LA because they were going and protesting the war in Vietnam, I got caught up and I went out and I wanted to watch. I wanted to watch this happen. I can tell you that I walked out of work. I was a box boy at the time. I walked out of work and I saw smoke coming down from the direction in which I lived. And the first thing that came to my mind is, I hope our house is safe. It got scary for me. We went home and thank goodness the fire was a little bit further east, or I should say further west and a little south. So I rushed home, took off my Vaughn's shirt and put on a t-shirt and some jeans, and I jumped in with my little brother, picked up a friend of mine, and we went down to Whittier Boulevard to watch the stuff happen. The mobs, I remember the bar.
Oh, the Silver Dollar.
The Silver Dollar. I saw the Silver Dollar being surrounded by the sheriff's department and watching tear gas being shot through the walls. And then I remember someone coming from behind me and knocking me upside the head and throwing handcuffs on me and throwing me in a car. I was watching, but I mean, it did so much for me to say, I want to get involved. And this is part of the whole thing. So I use that because that was what I had around me at the time. There are plenty of those things around us every day that can help us get more and more engaged and involved. As a young person, as a middle-aged adult, as seniors, there's so much out there for us to get involved with today. And I'm going to say something else about the youth. I have come to the conclusion that our youth of today are much more sophisticated than the youth were back when I was there, wanting to watch something and finding myself in the middle of trouble. But I have to say, looking back, damn, was it exciting. I swear it was.
So two things. Silver Dollar is important in Los Angeles history because Ruben Salazar was killed there. Do you know who he is? If you don't, please look him up. And two, I would disagree that they were more sophisticated when we were. We were more sophisticated than our parents and the people from the other side of the Depression. So it builds. And we should, and we should be in solidarity, not saying, well, we're smarter than you, or they're dumber than us. No, in our experiences, I was on the other side of that. He was over there on Laguna Park. I was trying to get in. We couldn't get in because they had us all blocked off. But those experiences are important. And real fast, I'm going to piggyback. How many of you remember 1968 and all that activism was going on worldwide? And I was in Paris, and they were selling. In Paris, they had these, in the streets, they have these bricks, right? They're like rocks, really. And they put them down and you drive over them. Well, during the 68 unrest, they were pulling those things up and throwing them at people. When I was there last time, they were selling them for $40. As a souvenir, right? And when I asked questions about that, this guy told me, well, what you don't understand is that's being very French. Because at the time that was being thrown by Moroccan French community. He said, that's a very French thing to do. Well, it so happens, I was reading the novel Notre Dame that trip, and guess what they did when they got angry? Dug up the rocks and they're throwing them at the police, and that's in the 1400s. Okay? So activism goes way back. It goes hopefully way forward, so I appreciate what you have to say there. That's important. Okay, I think, Melanie, did you have your hand up? Over here, sorry.
Yeah, I was just going to say, Ray's absolutely right, and, young people today they're basic, loadout of intelligence and scrutiny is as accurate as anybody else's is. but they have such greater access to information,
Yes.
and there's such the number
That's the key.
and the amount of expectations on them, like the things that they are knowingly going into the future, knowing that they're going to, like, this is going to be your problem, or it is your problem now. I think that they're just more dialed in than, teenagers were when I was one, because you kind of have to be, and assuming that, and again, I think these conversations about the age limits are really, I mean, they're doubly disrespectful. It's a backhanded indictment, because if you look at the electorate, the average American, I think we're less literate, less willful, like we get excited and we get, we can be manipulated and steered, but, I would say the average teenager probably is better equipped to do something than a lot of people who, let's say their parents' age or older, because they know they have to. And, I think the message that they're accepting very readily is that, I have just as much access as anybody, and just as much right to outcomes. These are going to be our outcomes. So why not me?
The potential is there. We're ignoring that potential.
Yes.
Right? That's the important part. But that doesn't mean that all students, trust me, when I was in the classroom, it was hard getting some, right? But there are those that are. Let's find a way to bring them in. That's where maybe you guys can help. Yes?
Well, he's describing a protest, a violent protest. That's from not having a place to speak about it peacefully. And we have less opportunities, I believe, and we're giving less opportunities for those proper passages and routes to be able to make change. I don't know about anybody else, but I'm going downtown to a forestry committee meeting. It's now turned into a whole series. I've got a whole bunch of networking to do for this, reaching out to many different stakeholders, and that's just one of the tasks that is there. And it's like, it's frustrating to me that anybody that's here might be trying to do more than they have the time limits for, and then we should have a larger amount of community here to be able to take that on, to be able to have the numbers. I mean, there are some complaints that I've heard even from board members that we're only serving our own opinions, and we're not serving the community. But that's based on whether we're being able to effectively get to the community and get those responses. And I think that's where we're responsible. We can't, but
So that outreach could potentially help fill these chairs in, right? And in your bylaws, can community people work in your committees? What was that?
Yes.
Okay. Yes, that's what I hear. So I hear what you're saying, and that's a great way potentially to bring people in, right? Through the committees, right?
Well, we do have an outreach committee. It would be great to be able to, I don't know how, again, we have time limits, we have lack of communication. I believe, all of our committees should be with youth and outreach, or be able to reach out to youth and outreach. I don't know how we can, because that's its own committee. It's good.
Work. I hear some work here.
I just don't know how we can better effectively try to reach out for all committees. I don't know. It's like at the last comment with it, maybe a day of peace, maybe we missed an opportunity because we would have had a list of when all the meetings happen, the dates and the places that they happen on a general, and the website to find out if the meeting is actually going to happen that day. Have that and share it with people. I spoke to two high schoolers and they were really, really interested, but I didn't, it would be great to be able to, I don't know.
Is that direct response?
Well, I do have a direct response.
Okay. He has to go there and then I'll come to you. Go.
So, I absolutely agree, Gwen, that there was an opportunity to do outreach. And every time...
Yeah.
And every time there is an event such as those things, there is where we have the opportunity to do strategic outreach, to plan, and to get out there and do. And I think we do that very well. for the most part. But here's the thing that I think we lose our vision is the outreach that each and every one of us can do on an everyday basis to bring people here, to let them know that this is what they have in front of them, to advocate for themselves, through us. Because as I was listening, 3 words jumped in my head. It was attend, advocate, and advance. Every one of those things we do when we take it up and we go out there and we actually do the things that we were asked to do as neighborhood council representatives. We have an obligation ourselves to go out there and advocate and outreach these meetings, these events, and things like that.
Well, each committee can, right?
It's not necessarily the strategic part that we do all the time, but it's the individual part that we can do every single day. That's the important thing that sometimes I think we lose with our vision.
Yeah, but how can we also, it would be really great if we had more of a, like, talking, I mean, I talk with people all the time. But that's one message once, and then it kind of dissipates. After that, I don't know. I don't know if the amplification, because so, you know, like for example, this meeting here, did we spread the information to people? I know Sunday's a really difficult time for people. That's a very personal, you know, day for a lot of families who do a lot of different things. But I don't know if we have, everybody has a limited amount of time, and when we have things like Peace Day, we had, you know, what was amazing is that John said that we gathered more signatures than it was just like pages and pages of signatures, which was great. And, at the end of the day, what are we going to do with the signatures? How are we going to effectively target them? Is it going to be amplified afterwards? Are we going to get them out to another event that we might be doing, like a public safety event or something, and then talk about it again?
Item number 5 can cover that, but Lori has something to say.
Sorry.
No, the great points, good points. Lori's
Just
not in
this
here.
conversation
She was
is
up
so
first.
frustrating to listen to. I was the outreach chair for many years. And, you know, people aren't going to just come to a meeting going, oh, there's a sustainability meeting, oh, there's a board meeting. There needs to be an issue or a topic that is timely or relevant that will, some people aren't going to go to a general meeting. And I asked over and over for committee chairs to email, and Chris is outreach chair now, email him and say, hey, we're going to have a presentation on the Vincent Thomas Bridge or whatever, okay? You need it and have a headline that will grab their attention. If they're not going to read a lot of text, you have to give them a reason to want to attend. And no matter how many times I asked for this, I never, ever got a committee chair to send me information, and then they come and talk about their meeting and about the presentation, which they're supposed to come to the board meeting to share what they, you know, what the stakeholders said at the committee meeting, but nobody was there because they didn't do outreach. And so it's not the onus on the outreach team to know what every committee's doing, but I say the committee chair, take the responsibility. If you've got a good presenter coming, don't waste that presenter's time. Give it to the public to know about it. But it has to be topic and issue driven to gain interest. Very important.
Okay. Well, Data Peace, I have to spend 7 hours reaching out to people. I was there from 7:30, from setup to tear down, talking to people, inviting people, going to each booth and referring to what we were doing at our booth. So yeah, we got a lot of signatures. John and I worked really hard on getting people to sign up, and John sends them an email, puts them on our e-list, so they get the stuff that's going on. I don't know how much else we could do that. I did have a former student come and tell me they really enjoyed coming to one of our meetings when it was about the skate park, because it was topics that were relevant to them.
Yeah.
I'm sorry, if you're going to come and listen to a presentation about the Vincent Thomas Bridge for 2 hours, and we don't limit the time limit on some of these people speaking, as a student, I wouldn't come. That's not interesting to me. Okay? It has to be something that they're interested in too. We have students come to youth and outreach, and they're interested in what's going on. as with you when you came to the meetings, to talk about the things that are of interest. But it gets really tiring when you go to these events where we have booths and it's 2 people, 3 people, 4 people that are doing all the reach out all the time. And, you know, I talk through my PTA. My PTA comes and asks me, oh, are you guys having a meeting, blah, blah, blah. You know, I'm on school site council. I go to my school site council and say, look, you have an issue, bring it to me. Let us know. We're in neighborhood council. We had an issue with some schools being worried about guns. I called Melanie immediately to find out what public safety knew about it so that I could get back to my parents. But it is a communication thing. But it can't only be a few people. It can't be the same people over and over and over again. I'm sorry.
Okay, I'll come to you in a second. So as an educator and as a human relations advocate, what you guys are saying drove us nuts. We would have meetings. There's a shooting in the neighborhood. You would think that something of that nature would bring people out because they're all involved. It was very difficult. It would take us months into years to even get a training done, right? So I remember what the philosopher once said, from the little acorn grows the mighty oak tree. Anybody know who that philosopher was? Anybody know who that philosopher was? That's W.C. Fields. Yeah, you guys even know who he is? Probably not. But it's still valid information. Yes, people will come to meetings when it's of their interest. But what we have to train and teach people is, I'm not coming to your interest meeting if you're not coming to mine. If you don't care about elders, then I'm not going to care about youth. That's not very productive, by the way. Matter of fact, it's destructive. That's not the way to do it. How many of you ever seen Mr. Smith Goes to Washington? All right, there's a line in there when he's going on the filibuster, and he says, we got to look out for the other guy once in a while. And I was watching it last Friday, and I'm thinking, geez, that could be very valuable today. But I don't see that happening very often. So what we have to learn about the body politic, about community, is that, hey, and this is what I used to tell my students, government leads, and the line is like this. It moves all over the place, because sometimes these people need more than these people. And sometimes these people need more than here. But if we're not learning that, hey, one day, I'm 18 now, I can't even remember when that was, and now I'm hitting on the edge, right, where I have graduated. Hey, I should have remembered some of that stuff, what it was, talking to elders, what it was going to be like when I got there. Right. So, yes, it's frustrating when you go out there and you've been doing all this hard work and no one shows up. But you got to keep moving the line forward, because that's how it works. And when it doesn't, and when we quit, and it slides back, then the next generation may not have any examples. They may have a lot of bad examples, maybe no good examples. So I'm just saying, I feel what you're saying, but understand that that's part of what, in civic engagement, part of what outreach and doing the one-on-ones about. It's hard to get empathy from television. You can, but sometimes it's a lot easier when you're talking to these folks who are going through things that maybe you have too. So let me see if you were first, second, third, and then fourth. Oh, I'm sorry. You're right. Thank you very much. See, there. That's good. That's good civic engagement right there. Thank you very much.
I wanted to give us credit. I thought, I think we actually do a lot well to do it better. I think this is a group where if any member wants to get, the outreach email list to do something specific, you can do that, right? So, I think people should feel empowered to do things, and I don't think you get a lot of no's from Ray or other, members on the exec to do things. And the way I looked at these events, either at the beginning and then, middle towards the end, was a huge success because, to Lori's point, you were focused on animals, right? We had one of the more talked about exhibits, and when you talked to everybody there, we had Jake Goodall with the water bottle, and that was an environmental issue, not a big ass, but then we had the, alarm for all the animals that are being put down. So I thought we had a pretty big impact in talking to 50 schools who had to be managed going around. And even looking at our best neighborhood council, I right? Sometimes there's just us, or the majority of the time it's only stakeholders. When there's an issue like the bridge, though, then you get folks. There's something specific with the board. So I kind of struggle with how do we make these, if we have regular meetings, there's not always a topical issue, because I can be really deflated, but that is part of our obligation, right? To try to go there and do it. We don't know, but we want that. The last thing I'd say about access, and why I know we disagree as a group on this, but why I passionately wanted to have the ability for virtual or online, is I have observed this change past the pandemic. There are some folks, kind of 30s below that almost won't attend if you don't have that as a choice, right? So I think it's a way to get folks engaged, that they don't have to get in their car, or actually now my son's dating somebody who doesn't have a car, her parents are experiencing homelessness too, right? It is something that I feel proud that we at least have the option to try to make it available, because for somebody who has to take the bus or take the bike, come to these meetings at night, it is hard. So trying to figure out how we can use technology to allow that access to get more people in our meetings, I think we really need to lean into.
Well, I agree with you, and I think everybody does. Using all the tools that are out there for it is important. And I'm going to throw one idea. This is what we did when our commission was actually doing good work. We actually held a commission meeting down here at the high school. And then we went to another area so that community members could actually walk in. They didn't have to come to downtown, right? So it was the Rolling Thunder tour. So it's a good way of outreach, because then you say, hey, you can't make it to here? Well, guess what? We'll go to where you're at. Here and there and there.
Maybe during the public comment time, we should have acknowledged the group that worked on Peace Day, from this group, that helped to build that event, because that was absolutely a magnificent event. My discussion and what I was talking about, problem solving, was more to our aspect as a neighborhood council board and our little tent, what we did as a tent. And for future, and we have very strong policies to how to get things outreach. We have that. It didn't work. We could have had a conversation about that. But there were ways to solve that, and I think that would have helped. But going forward with Chris as the lead for example, the social media thing, perhaps Chris can talk about how we can get things to you or come up with some kind of little basic thing that we can all work with, that we can direct it in the way. And Chris, you have a lot on your plate. Maybe there's a second that's the delivery person for getting it on social media. Just have that little routine where we can do that, because we have not had this for years. This is the time to come up with those solutions, and I'm hoping that will be the opportunity to come up with that simple solution so all of our committee members have that directed. It goes up as quick as possible, and there we go.
So I'm hearing solutions. That's a good thing. That's a good word. Come up with some solutions. We're going to go here and here and there. But remember what Samuel Beckett once said: whatever you do, fail, get up, and fail again, better. Okay?
Different ones.
Okay. Fail again, better. The poet, right?
So I appreciate the fact that Ray organizes these retreats every year, and we have this opportunity to discuss it. It's important that people understand their target audience if you're going to a particular event. So I knew for Day of Peace that we were going to have people from all over from other states. Okay, it wasn't just going to be, let me tell you what we do with Northwest and Pedro. So we got it together. I studied Jane Goodall's Roots and Shoots program to see how it worked. And I saw, one of them was about animals. We have the animal shelter located in Northwest. We all know that overcrowding is a serious problem. And it was a problem that we were pretty much united on. Okay, there weren't many people who said, yes, kill the dogs. So it was really great. So we put together a working group, and we did the research. Okay, and Abby was a big part of doing the research, our youth rep, because she's good at that. Okay, and so we knew when we went there, we want to talk about what a neighborhood council does, but we knew the people coming there were environmentalists, animal lovers, this kind of thing. So we were, and then we knew we also happened to have to take good old drinking out of our water bottle, which John said people were using as a total, which was great. So you take advantage. I will differ with Gwen in that we cannot lean on social media. Okay, social media is just one aspect. Okay, low-income people, seniors, there's a lot of people, and people just disgusted with social media because of all the nonsense. So I think that Chris does a lot of posting on social media. I appreciate that. A lot of other people on the board add things to it, but you have to word of mouth, flyers, our hard copy newsletters, which I still believe in. But really, you need to. But the important thing I meant to mention, we partnered with the animal shelters because we said, you know what, we're not the experts on this. So we reached out. We got a contact for the Harbor Shelter and the Carson Shelter. We had a Zoom meeting with them. They loved some of the ideas that we had, and won't go into the details. So now you're partnering with a local group. They have reach on an issue that was important to them. So if we're doing outreach, it's not just about us. What other local group might be interested in this? Because it's the students in the high school. Get them there. So partnering, building up relationships with other organizations to help do outreach and share the message of whatever it is we want to share, I think is really important.
And remember, in education, it's about linking things.
Yes.
Why?
Yes.
One of the most important things that I learned as a student myself, teacher would tell me, you got to know this. I would ask why, and I got in trouble. Right? Because I told you so. Well, you got to make those connections, right? So it was Doug, and then here and here. Or, no, here and here. But Doug.
Okay, let me bring a little bit of a different perspective here. 99% of what we do is not terribly interesting. It is the business, really, of legislating, the business of government. It barely keeps us awake at time. The other 1%, at least in my case, is a drive-through Starbucks. And I think, yes, yeah. Don't. I know. I just wanted to see very soon. But here's the thing I would point out. In our case, and I think we're typical at Coastal. Committees meet. They have a raft of issues to deal with in terms of bringing recommendations to the board. Depending, sometimes they get a bunch of people, which is usually 4 or 5. Sometimes they don't get anybody beyond the committee members. But the work is just as important. In a sense, they're the experts, they get it done. It's always nice to hear from others, but that doesn't always happen unless they have a particular vested interest. But sometimes there is that issue, like the drive-through Starbucks. Community gloms onto it, and I can recall a planning meeting, not a board meeting at Coastal, where we did it as a hybrid, and had like 60 people in the room and another 35 online.
Oh, wow.
That's rare.
Was that about walkers?
It was Walker's Cafe and the drive-through.
Oh, okay.
Nobody was happy. But that only happens once a year if you're lucky. But you're there. You're there as an organization to deal with it on behalf of your community. And so all those other meetings, when you're sitting there going, well, over here, doesn't mean they're not important.
Right.
The fact that you're putting out information, at Coastal, our email list is, actually it was 996. I think we've added a few, so we're probably over 1,000 now. A couple times a month. Okay? It's not like, as I said to somebody, it's not like we're hiding. Okay? As well as all the other outlets we have. And people choose not to come and attend our board meetings. I don't blame them. But that does not mean that we are not doing the job that we need to do. Okay? So, I get that everybody likes the metric of numbers, attending meetings, but you shouldn't beat yourself up over it. You do the best that you can, and you guys do a good job. I spent my whole career in no, seriously. You guys do as good a job as just about any neighborhood council in the city. So that doesn't mean don't keep trying to do better, but give yourselves a pat on the back. You deserve it. So that's how you No, it really is. I know my children will tell you I do not do this easily. So, yeah.
And an interesting point, someone told me once, if you're into this, in this case, human relations work, and expect you to get a pat on the back, you're in the wrong business. So you have to have restraint. And if there's any educators in here, you know what I'm talking about, to know you're doing the good work, okay? You're next. Okay, go ahead.
So if you don't think you're relevant, you probably aren't. It's what it is.
Say that again, I got lost.
If you don't think you're relevant, you probably aren't. If you've got a committee and it's all people from the board, you're making a mistake. If you have a committee and everybody on that committee agrees with you, you've done something wrong. If you have a board and 90% of that board always votes the same way, there's something wrong. There's no community engagement. There's people that were on the board that aren't because that's what they thought. They thought that this was supposed to be a group thing and we're all supposed to move in line. We don't. Nobody does. So if you want stuff to happen, you have to be able to accept that somebody has a different opinion of you, of the issue, and you have to listen to it. Instead, what we get is, if you have a different opinion, oh, I'm not going to listen to you, I'm going to close you down. And this happens on the committee level. Okay? You watch, if you go to the city council, there's no discussion. They've all decided what they're going to do already. The fix is in. We have a chance. The community is not engaged because we're not engaged. And we're not engaged with the community. Okay? I've been to, gotten names, gone to outreach, and it's not going to bring anybody to involvement in the community. Because they're not involved. They come to a meeting and we show them digging a tunnel underneath Gaffey, and the guy gets the same lecture 3 times for an hour. They're not going to be engaged with that. I'm not engaged with it. I want to go to sleep. So if you want to be relevant, you have to start being inclusive. We used to, unless I'm mistaken, I've been on this neighborhood council longer than anybody. And before anybody on this council was here. We used to be a requirement that you had people from the community on your committee, and you had to get people with differing opinions. Now, what everybody wants to do is, oh, we're going to do an event. You have to come. No. If you want to be engaged, if you want to be talked about, if you want to be listened to, you have to be engaging and listening to other people. I go and talk to my neighbors. My power, you all know the power went out in my neighborhood.
Yeah.
I lost about $5,000 worth of appliances. I've been talking to my neighbors. When I see a truck pull up to their side, I say, what's going on? I'm working on how we do that. You can engage my neighborhood because there's a lot of people that are suffering. But nobody, I put it out on Nextdoor. I had a few people answer. The problem is you have to go out and engage people. You have to be there, what they're doing. The biggest things that we had people show up for, one thing that we had people show up for was Ponte Vista. And those of you that remember Ponte Vista, we had people crammed in the building for it. The second thing was the bathrooms at the park. We had to have a town hall on it because people were interested on it. And the third thing was the town hall that we had on the right wing group that went to the park.
The what?
Proud Boys.
Latinas for
The Proud Boys. Proud Boys.
Oh, yeah.
the guy.
That, we did that online.
And that engaged people. But what we normally do, we don't engage people. I mean, the business stuff we can get out in 5 minutes. But we don't engage our community. We don't have community members showing up. These are all the same people. I mean, I'm way over my 2 minutes.
Thank you. Go here in a minute.
So, to his point, when one of us has a community issue, such as a power outage, maybe that should be on an agenda for the appropriate committee, and the person who is most responsible or most involved in that, try to get it on that community. Perhaps community issues would be the right one?
No, public safety. It's already being,
Public safety is already...
stuff's going out. It's a problem. DWP is washing their hands of
I
it.
say this, I'm not going to approach it.
I'm using it as an example.
I'm not going to approach this through through the board because I can't get anything done through the board. So I'm going to engage my community and do this. I've already done that, started doing outreach. Everything I've wanted to get done in my community, I've had to go out on my own and do it.
Exactly.
Because if I have to do it through this board, I'll drown.
So what I'm hearing here is that there's a process, there's a place for this council, and then there's a place for action separate from it. That doesn't take away from what the neighborhood council can do. Matter of fact, maybe we can learn some more from here. So let me see. Actually, we're going to go here, and then back.
We are board members. We are board members. Okay? Doesn't mean we're community leaders. Community leaders are people that participate in community events. That's what's lacking here. Not the little events that we have, but all of them. Right? Okay? Nobody can force people to come here. You can give them extra credit, and yeah, they'll be here. I would have been too, I think, because I worked all my high school years on extra credit because I didn't do the work because I was working another job. I come and did the extra credit. They'll be here. They're not here now because no one's going to get extra credit. Kids aren't here, right? When you're out in the community, you don't have to say you're a board member or whatever. You need to communicate so they can see you and know what you're doing. They have to trust this board to be able to participate and think, are they going to do something or is it just talk? And nothing gets done. And that's what's happening. Nothing's followed through, nothing gets done. Because you can say to this committee and this president here, what have we actually done? Okay? Craig is 100%. Me and Craig were at each other's throat before I was even a board member. And we're good friends now. Okay? Because he saw his side, I saw my side. You get it, okay? If you don't have the community trust, you don't get to show up. It's a waste of time. If you're not working in the community's best interest, it's a waste of time. I've been involved in the bathrooms, like Craig said. I've been involved in the Science Center. I've been involved in Point of Vista before I was even on the board. This
board here, nobody respected it because they were doing the wrong thing on all those issues. I participated in bringing a stoplight to a certain area, a bus stop, so we can get a community from Target up to the thing. Nobody, we all voted for it, but it dies. Issues dies. This board kills it. Nothing happens. So how do you expect people to actually trust this board to do anything? That's the problem. You can't just say, well, we got an event at Candy Cane Lane, or we got an event here, we got an event here. Doesn't mean you're doing anything for the actual people besides doing that event.
Well, I want to come back again. Understanding your bylaws, and it's got a point. Understanding where the neighborhood council can be impactful, and where sometimes being your own community activist is impactful.
Yeah.
Again, you didn't go to the Pentagon to protest the war in Vietnam. You needed to go to your congressperson. So know to whom you turn. So make sure you know your bylaws. That way, your committees, the council, the things that you do can be best streamlined. All right? Having these events out there, they're important. There's no doubt about it. But there are things that some people want to get done. I'm going to give you a good example. How many of you even heard of Lost Memorials, the wall in Lincoln Heights? Okay.
I couldn't hear that.
Lost Memorials, the wall. Does anybody know? So it was a memorial that was built in Lincoln Heights, in Lincoln Park. Okay? And it was to honor all those who had died from AIDS. Well, there was a certain family in particular that wanted to knock it down. Mm-hmm. And it was a time I'm facilitating the meetings for a developing neighborhood council. And they came and they were attacking the neighborhood council and all kinds of stuff. They brought in veteranos to scare people. I stood up and said, this is not the committee that handles that issue. Scaring people, raucousing things, and they were in the wrong area.
Oh, Lord.
Okay, so part of what you need to know is someone comes and argues about something of that nature, goes, oh, well, honestly, you need to go talk to these people. And then if you want us to support you somehow, that's different. Okay? But always be aware of the bylaws. Government is in place to keep the bullies from taking over and running us down. And sometimes, you use the word boring. Sometimes it's not sexy. Right? I'm going to use that instead. Sometimes it's not sexy, but if we're not there, being vigilant, doing our due diligence, you know what I mean, doing our due work, then we are going to get run over. But we also need to know things and help explain that. So why it's not sexy, okay? So make sure you know our bylaws. Okay, so Ray, a long time ago I missed you, so, and then I'll come back.
We got an hour left. We got at least one more item that we have to address. People have opinions. We all have them. And it's up to our individual selves to be able to, or to determine whether they're valid or not. I'm not going to get into individual things, but I will say that there are a few things that we did cover today that were emblematic of what it is we need to do from this point looking forward so that we can say, are we a success or are we not a success?
I think there's room for improvement in everything.
Yeah, I agree with you. Many people feel that there are times when you can go out there and you say yourself that you are engaged and involved, and you come back and you say, this is what's wrong. And they feel that that is their sense of engagement, and that's all they have to do. The true sense of engagement is not just identifying the problem, but identifying a potential solution.
If you're just complaining about it, you're just part of the problem. It's the solution.
You need to think through what is the solution to get rid of that problem.
Yeah.
That's the big work that needs to be done. We all do it. But there's one other step that we have to remember before we can actually say that something was done. Because you can identify the problem and think that you did your job. You can even come up with a solution and you think that you've done your job. But it isn't until you say, I want to be part of that working group to solve the solution, to solve the problem and work the solution through. Now you've been able to grab the true sense of civic engagement. And that's sometimes where we fall behind. One of the things that was listed here, or one of the things that is listed here, is the fact that we, how do we show that we're successful or not? It has nothing to do necessarily with numbers. It has nothing to do with necessarily with what we identify. It's what is it that we will look toward so that we can say that we have been successful over the past year. And I would like to be able to maybe get a couple things listed so that at the end of the year we can say we have some positive outcomes. Number five. We have about an hour left. And it's not hard because I'm hearing a lot of things that we're talking about right now that could actually go to that. And I'm not saying let's have a whole list of stuff. If we end up with one item to identify that we did, and we can somehow identify it, quantify it, do something to say that it was accomplished, that is great. But I think we're at that point now where we really should, because I think that's the true test of whether we were successful and we're walking away with kind of our running orders. So I'm not going to tell you what it is, because I honestly don't know, because I tend to agree with Doug. I mean, I think we do great work. I think we spend our times and we do actually get things accomplished. We bring things to the community. Remember we started this conversation about communities. Our community is not just the youth. Our community is not just the seniors. Our community is not just one segment. Our communities are diverse. And the word that was used earlier is inclusivity, or being inclusive, and we have to remember that we have to be inclusive in our communities also. Take some questions. So with that, I want to move into that. I want to be able to come out with at least one, maybe two or three. Let's not overburden ourselves, but we need to come up with some outcomes for ourselves so that we can identify that we're successful in the coming years.
All right, we are doing something. So Cyan first, here, there.
You need to follow through committee. So when all these ideas are voted yes on, you follow through and you finish it. Whether it's the city saying denying it or something, we need results of who's denying it and why. Another thing I've been thinking about, we have this board meeting every month. So if you called it a community meeting every month / board meeting every month, maybe you'll get community people. And if you advertise correctly, maybe you'll get community people. Community, that's what we are, a community board member. We're the community. Community first, board members second, all in the same line. Maybe we can change that wording instead of using a board meeting to a community meeting once a month. And know that people can come here and air what the problems are. And then we can take it to our committees and say, okay, we're on a committee here, we're on a committee there. Bring it.
You're next.
And it's true with the follow-through thing, it's part of it, but I think one of the things too is communicating that there isn't, like I had no idea there was a power outage in his area. So that needs to go to, like you said, whoever it's going to. But maybe as a board, we can be notified so that we can each reach out to somebody that we know, or public safety, yeah, it goes to public safety or whatever. But I'm saying communication is going to be the key. If there's a problem, just like I felt pretty bad for the guy who got up and spoke to us about his tree in front of his house and the damage it was doing. And I'm like, okay, whatever happened with it? And I asked, I don't remember who I asked. And then finally Drew got up and said, oh, we fixed this tree, and it's finding out where that goes from where we started. And if we communicate a need, just like talking to the students, they need these hours or they need this. Okay, well, I had a student call me, one of the students, and I gave her a list of different meetings, and I turned her onto the website to find out where she could go, and first of all, communicating a need, and following through, and finding out what can be done to take care of that problem. Because there's biggest one at my school, we still need a crossing guard. Went to Tim McCosker, talked to him about it. He got one for Park Western, we still didn't get one. Well, I yelled at LA Unified, look, we don't have a crossing guard. We've had kids almost get hit. We're on a street that comes off of Western, and people fly through the stop signs. So all of a sudden, my boss gets a thing saying, it's funded, we're funded for it. We've never been told we were funded for it. We were never given a budget for it. It was never given to us. Now we can hire somebody, but there's not a position available. So who do you go to next with that? Because it's a public safety issue. We wrote letters, and we talked to the SLO.
It's a staffing. They have to get a hold of LAUSD staffing. They have to hire somebody.
Can we not talk about what
not specific, but it's just following it. But it is. John's right. It's a follow through. First of all, like Craig said, we need to communicate the problem and find out what he's reached out to his neighborhood. Okay, so how can, as a council, we help that neighborhood, where it goes from there, and then follow up with, okay, look, this happened, and if Craig still needs help here, where do we step in there? That's the kind of stuff that we need.
So
follow up and follow through.
You use the term communication and follow-up within the council? Is that what you're talking about as well?
Within the council, within each committee.
Okay, all right.
It's a follow-up and follow-through. I'm glad you look after that guy's tree.
So being a council, everybody has to keep it. Okay, you're next.
Can I clarify, were we on the accomplishments portion?
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes.
Okay,
Yes.
so I had some notes I wanted to share, but I wanted to make sure I'm doing it at the right time. I think that it's important for us to acknowledge that some of the things that we do may seem small are really much deeper than that, because we talk about Candy Cane Lane or the parade as being these little things that we do, but really we're sponsors of these events, and we help bring them to our communities. And when we sit down at a table and we get email addresses, we're not just getting their email, we're talking to them about what the board does. I always tell them about the different committees and see if there's like an area where they might be interested in getting involved. I can't remember whose point it was that I think maybe Craig said, we need people on our committees that aren't board members. So that's a lot of what I do when I'm sitting at that table, is I'm telling them, are you interested in public safety or youth and outreach? Come to a committee, join, get involved. So anyway, like I said, I think we do a lot, and it might get dismissed as something small, and it's really much bigger.
Okay, so its impact is much larger. Okay, Laura, you go next.
Okay, ready for some changes. Okay, so two things. One,
Outcomes.
Okay, so when chairs are doing their agendas, take your current agenda, and if you haven't completed it or it's still open-ended, have a section on your agenda that's old business, or it's ongoing business. Like you didn't solve it, you didn't address it completely. There's more to follow up on, to Kelly's point.
Yeah.
Okay? Don't just check it off, okay, did that. Continue. Always make your new agenda, use your old one, and decide, is this going to stay on here? And if it's staying on here, what do we need to do that we need to
Old
finish?
business.
Next step, continuing. The other thing is to respectively disagree. Okay? Just because a couple of people may vote one way and the rest vote another way doesn't mean that they're sheep. Okay? It means that they've listened, they've reviewed the issues, okay? And that's their opinion. And respectively disagree. I have been the target continuously of personal attacks by a couple of board members, and I do my best to be as respectful, and as a stakeholder, I don't even have to be, okay, to be as respectful as possible in addressing the issues. I do my research, I engage, I'm out in the community, I'm talking with people about the topic that I have been assigned to cover, okay? I don't know why it's necessary, but that is not productive, and to keep saying, we're the only people that do anything, people aren't listening to us, is negative energy. I'm not saying everybody should come in with pom-pom and go rah-rah, neighborhood council, okay? But we feed off positive energy, we feed off momentum of let's get some work done, let's highlight the little things, let's highlight the big things that we have accomplished. Maybe keep a running list of things that we've accomplished, okay? Yes, we could always improve. That's the beauty of this, we're evolving. But I just can't stand to listen to the negative comments for some people who think that they're helping by making those comments. They repeat the same negativity every single meeting, and nobody else appreciates it. It's not helpful. We need to respectfully disagree and respectfully accept other people's opinions.
Okay, and that falls on the category, we're going to go here and here, what we used to promote out of human relations, a majority-minority report from the neighborhood councils. That's what we were pushing at one point. Because you're right, sometimes those folks that are in the minority might be right, going down the pipeline. So what you're saying about bringing in other outside voices, that's an important piece to be added to. Yes, you may vote 100% for a certain item, but there were people in the public, in the community who said, no, we feel this, and we're not being heard. And one of the reasons neighborhood councils was developed is because people in the grassroots felt they weren't being heard.
Yeah.
You want to be those, anti-advocates, right? So I like what you're saying. Yes, let's make sure that those folks that come in with a different opinion are at least recorded and downtown can know this. All right, here.
Because someone thinks that people are being negative.
Under the
but
agenda.
they're doing it for the community because the community thinks the board's being wrong.
Well, those voices, yeah.
Those voices need to be heard.
Yeah.
Okay? Leadership on this board is the same old thing. And we get the same old results.
Well, that's what we want to avoid, right?
We need, and it was brought up by Tatiana, we need to put time limits on this board. So we get new people in there, new voices, new people, new people that have their visions this way, not this way.
But meeting on Tuesday, that is something that could be brought up, correct? So
How
remember,
many people are you think are going to show up?
what matters is the board members that are
Is there
there.
an incentive for everybody to show up?
Well,
Where?
The incentive is you showing up to satisfy your own desires. That's the
Incentive is
incentive.
something
So
getting
go and
done.
show up so you can share
Incentive is getting
yourself.
something done.
you share but sharing that opinion with them, it can matter, is what I'm saying. So consider that. Here and there.
Accomplishments, back to the agenda item. I think even though as small as they are in their donation items, in a sense with our MPGs that we do, think about the money that we gave to MPGs. Those are accomplishments. We were able to help buy a new refrigerator for Meals on Wheels when we gave our MPG. We were able to help finish the mural at the skate park for them. That's another accomplishment through our MPG. And the skate park itself. Those are some of our accomplishments, even though it's not physically something that we did. The money that our neighborhood council has, we were able to be part of that program to help it make it happen. And that's an accomplishment. We were able to help Assistance League have money to do the school bill program for clothes for kids that can't afford to even have like a pair of jeans and shirts and stuff, for money for that for our MPGs. Those are accomplishments for our neighborhood council. And those should go on record that we've done that. Even as small as our MPG program was this last year, we picked MPGs that were going to benefit San Pedro and San Pedro families and reflect on that we would actually see it and not some outside nonprofit that's out of our area.
Well, with accomplishments, public safety. We've really tried to tap into and to help. One of our stakeholders is up on the hill on Gaffey. We were able to solve a violence and death issue up there, which also alleviated the robberies that were happening in our communities down at the bottom of the hill.
Yep.
There's, a couple of us showed up to a meeting where Caltrans was there, and we talked about how, or at least I did, and I brought to their attention that the roadway where Ponte Vista is, that 2 vehicles have run into Ponte Vista, and the cars actually ended up in the backyards of the new, brand new development, and made a suggestion as to how to deal with that particular area and make it safer. These things are active. I can't even tell you about Vincent Thomas Bridge. This is an ongoing thing that will be an open thing for the next 5 years, 8 years, who God knows how long. And this group has insisted on an advocacy group for the community. It does exist, and it is still being worked on aggressively. So I'm a little frustrated with that the people that are involved with that, they're the same people. What's your excuse if you don't go?
Yeah.
And I'm going to be really upset about that. Don't say you're part of the solution by complaining about it. Go and say one goddamn word to the Caltrans people, to the people that matter, whether it's state, Al Marisucci, there's going to be a meeting. He's our state representative. He is fantastic. There are things for the state that you could advocate for. He's the guy to talk to. Go to these things. And if you're part of the community and you're reaching out to them, let the other people on the board know what's going on and let them know what you're doing. That's what this is for. And I'm completely upset about this. I'm going to walk away from it, but thank you. This has been really accomplishing.
I heard a solution, get involved, right?
Yeah.
Show up to the meeting.
It is, and I get it, because it seems to be the same people. When there was a commission meeting here in town, her and I were the only ones there for the commission meeting for the animal services. We dropped everything and went to that meeting.
Well, one of the things about civic engagement that's amazingly a pain in the neck is that people in a democracy have a right not to get involved. And although, and again, I'll throw out my Constitution, we were raised the idea you're supposed to be engaged, right? And we could pass civic tests and all that stuff, but still have the right not to get involved. And that's the hard part. So sometimes it does fall on you folks here on a Sunday being the ones that are representing. And it may not be fair, but I'm just saying. Okay? So what I'm hearing also is that there's some accomplishments. Before I come to you, any accomplishments from your committee? Anything in terms of outreach through the tech? What? Not to put you on.
You did a newsletter.
We've had several.
Everybody who was there knows, and if you don't know, ask yourself why you don't know.
You did a newsletter, Chris. You did a great newsletter.
I know exactly what we did, but my point is the people who are the most critical and who are the most negative are the ones that we don't ever see. So if they don't know what we've done, there's a reason for that, and they should explain maybe why.
Okay, so let me ask, I get two things actually. Let me ask a question. So the things that are being done, all these accomplishments, do they come back to, if I'm a board member, does it come back to me in a report that I can physically read and know?
It's supposed to.
Okay, so that kind of eliminates that one excuse, right?
Yeah.
But also, I said this earlier, and I'm going to repeat it. If I'm upset with a particular group because they don't care about old folks, they only care about their issue, so I'm not playing that game with them. That's not being civically engaged. that's not being an advocate and a conduit for your communities. Yes, it's frustrating. Trust me, I understand that. And dealing with the bureaucracy, both from the school district and from the city. But if you're not here to keep, basically fighting, quote, unquote, the good fight, all right? It's not about getting even or being mad at somebody else. It's about being that advocate that somebody who walks in and sits down for the very first time looks and says, okay, yeah, they're disagreeing and everything, but at least they're not hitting each other and they're not climbing walls and eating dogs or whatever, okay? They're trying to at least listen and try to put these things together. And that's what we need to have, okay? You don't 100% agree with everything, because then there's a lot of people not being represented. I get that. But let's make sure that everybody knows the accomplishments that are going on. Also the key people outside, right? Your council members and whatever. But, yeah, again, you guys are doing something, you're developing something. That one day when they write about the council system, they're going to say, well, yeah, that group, they did some positive spins and helped make it work. Or it's going to end up like Portland, where it just went down the tubes with political will died. Okay, and that's back in 2002 or 3. All right. So, let's see, actually he has hand first in the morning.
I think we're not focusing on who the community people are. Community people of that skateboard park were the people that put it together, that spent their time to support you. Okay? They did it once, they tried to take away from them. The same group did it again. All we did was give them money for a mural. They did the work. So you have to realize who these community people are that are actually doing the work.
Okay.
Not us. We're giving money that the government gives us to give to somebody else. It's not in my pocket, tax money and everything else. And we're giving it to them. We got to acknowledge the people that created it for the youth. There's somebody here in this park that gymnasium's named after Mel Bobbage. It was a community event and it's in our area. Not one board member showed up. Not one. I was there. And if you don't acknowledge people that did something for the community, like he did, humbly, no satisfaction to himself, he did it for the people, and nobody from this board shows up at how much he's done for this community. It's our community. It's not right here, named after this guy.
So what's the solution?
Huh?
What's the solution for that?
There's certain things that need to be participated.
Okay.
There's certain things that community has done that need to be acknowledged by this board. Not just what we do on this board, but how we represent the community. When I sit there and see, I look around, and I'm the only board member there. I'm a 3-generation San Pedro. I know the name, I know the person, I know what he did, I know what he was about. Where's the leadership?
So
where's the sense of community?
So one of the solutions is that the neighborhood council is more in tune to what's going on?
Yes.
Okay. Thank you.
Not only on the board, but
yeah.
Overall.
Overall. Lori, and then after that, I want to ask anybody else who hasn't spoken yet. I'm not going to point you out, but anybody who hasn't spoken might want to say something. Go ahead.
I was really disappointed to read about the Bill Bobbage thing after it already happened, so I didn't know about it. So there's part of the problem. But what I wanted to share about is, so I'm not a board member, I'm a committee. I'm the homelessness liaison. And I work very hard through the entire month, reading things to try and pick out urgent issues. On a monthly report, I can't possibly cover everything on homelessness, housing, mental health, etc. So I pick one aspect. But what's always included in my report, Gary, and board is what you can do if you want to be involved. I never take that header off my report, okay, that says how you can be involved in either going to the CD15 working group on homelessness, other meetings, how you can get on their email distribution where they give you updates, how you can use LA Hawk, how you can use reporting homelessness to the circle team, and then the rest of my report I cover some aspects of it. Because a liaison is conduit, I'm supposed to be a messenger to try to keep you informed. It's not a particularly sexy topic, as you say. Okay. In fact, it's quite often really, draining to work on this topic. But as Ray said, if somebody's experiencing homelessness in our community, they are our stakeholders. But regardless, I say homelessness has no borders. Okay, it doesn't really matter where they are. This is a humanitarian issue. But I always make it a point to show how, if you care, you can report something, be involved. You do things like a clothes drive, and our board has done that. We have tied our events, our movie nights, with a warm coat drive, with a new sock drive. So those are things we're doing that is helping the community. Okay, those are important things for us to not forget, and we should probably do that. For instance, with every event we have, is from now on always include something where somebody can donate something, or even have a table where kids can make cards. We've done that with cards to Meals on Wheels to go with the meals. Okay, there's a lot of things we can do. We are helping the community. And I'm proud to be a homelessness liaison, and I've done such a good job that Central and Coastal have asked for my reports too, and so has Wilmington. And it's not that I'm trying to brag, I'm trying to say, pick a topic that you're passionate about and get into it, get really involved. We can't all show up to everything, we can't be experts in everything, but pick something that really means something to you, and then you'll have the passion to follow it through.
So a solution was, you said that always at the end of a report, down out of contact.
At the beginning.
At the beginning. Okay, good. Go here and then there. Go.
Well, in regards to an event that anyone of the board members might feel passionate about, such as an event that honors a person in the community, and they are aware of it. And I got to honestly say, I didn't know anything about it.
We voted on
What?
it. We voted on it.
No, we didn't.
Yes,
We
did.
voted to support it, but we never knew the date that it,
Right.
we didn't know the date of when they were doing it.
Don't want to start arguing and debating. Let's knock it off. Let's get
I wanted to come up with a solution.
Thank you.
John, really honestly, I could take your phone call and you said, hey, it's going to happen at this particular time.
It's okay. Address me.
You're right.
Outcome.
If anybody's passionate about something, call. I mean, we all have our numbers. We have a list. We have the emails and the phone numbers. There are certain people in this area that I talk about what events they're doing, and I try to go and support it. I think that it's absolutely fantastic. If somebody has something, they call everybody else and inform everybody else, and there's communication, and then as many people that can go can. Because I got to tell you, I hear about 10 things a week that I wish I could have gone to. And they were all really valuable things. And I think that if any one of us really thinks that something is important, call everybody else and be there. And then whoever can go, can go.
Exactly.
We're volunteers. We have a
Yes.
lot to do.
Yeah, but you know, like the cartoon said, you knew the job was dangerous when you took it.
Exactly.
So, what I'm hearing as part of a solution is that if there's something that is of community values, such as this park, that your council may want to have a representative there. Is that what I'm hearing?
Well, or to have everybody share.
I announced fake and blue. I gave the date. I said anybody can go there, and I made my case. And I may do that again. I may send a follow-up email. And if anybody can go there, then I'll have done my job. And
Is that-
I'm
I actually heard-
taking it upon myself to announce that. It has nothing to do with
Fine.
anything.
Yeah.
Well, I heard of a problem this morning that something was supposed to be ready at 11, and when they arrived, it wasn't done, and someone suggested, well, call them again in the morning. So, yeah, keep putting it out there. Just keep putting it out there. Doug, I saw your hand.
Yeah, a couple things. One, yesterday, at the Conference of Neighborhood Councils, we were in a session where we were asked to introduce ourselves, and I want you to know that your president, Ray Regalado, said that he was the president of the best
Did you go to
But here's the practical thing, you know, I think it's practical. I'm not quite sure what outcomes you're seeking. But back in the day, when people read newspapers, a lot of them, if you flip to their editorial page, would say the Times, you know, community improvements. They list maybe 5 things that they wanted done in their city. And as president of Coastal, I sort of have my own list. And people will come up to me and say, you guys should, or when I'll say, I'll add it to my list. Okay? Which is actually a bunch of Post-it notes stuff all over. But it exists. And it's those things that people in the community have called to my attention that they feel the neighborhood council should consider. Some of them are big, some of them are, you know, really small. But I don't just hear them and forget. And I know that there are other board members, particularly committee chairs and Coastal, who are doing the same thing, whether they think of it that way or not. So, you know, it might be worthwhile. I mean, I've heard various of you come up with, we should do this, we should do that. This is a priority, that's important. Make a list. Don't worry about prioritizing or anything else. Just make a list. And see what might be the low-hanging fruit that you can get done within 3 months, 6 months, whatever. We've had projects that we've literally been working on for 5 and 6 years. Something City, we may see it get open. We have literally been working on that for more than 15 years. But it's never left on a list. So, you know, maybe it's just a way of organizing, but make a list. Like I said, don't even worry about prioritizing. Just make a list. So that you don't lose what you said.
Just going to throw this out, just see if you're still awake. Do you know that there was an amendment to the Constitution that took over 200 years to be passed? Yeah. So, yeah, I'm not judging, but look at it. So sometimes, yes, it takes a while.
Said China.
Yeah.
Just to set the record straight, we voted on having that Jim name after Mel Bobbage. It's no surprise. And just to see where these so-called board members are, and all the people that filled that area up to support a man that does so much for you, how did they know? So if you're not a community leader, maybe just a board member, if you're not active in the community, you don't know. And you'll never know. And then you say, well, I didn't know nothing. If you're involved in the community, you know.
Step up. So when you said you vote on it, the name being changed, was your council the final vote on that? I mean, you're the ones that
We just supported it.
Oh, you supported it.
Supported it.
Right. All right. Again, the language is important. If I'm out there hearing, we voted on it, it sounds like, oh, you guys made the decision. You're an advisory group in an important one. Okay, but again, study the bylaws so you were doing everything, correctly. Yes, sir.
So, the beauty of this board should be the diversity of all of our backgrounds and experience. We've been here 3 generations or 3 years, and we know what we do. So, I imagine everybody gets felt themselves like, the Bobbages, my kids played for them. We could have been there, we love that family, we know what it was with kids, but it's San Pedro. Not everybody can do that, right? I got to go to one of the committees that Lori just mentioned for homelessness, and was told I was the only board member who went there. That's in that sale, that was something I was available for. We did. And there's such a variety of things. I think we should all challenge ourselves but also then, value. I think the hardest thing I found, and family members have found, is that there's so much tension instead of embracing diversity and the difference. I do find people seem to get personally, focused on individuals instead of embracing who John has or Lori has. I've learned both from them, for these two individuals. And John has a lot, to offer. I feel this way about Craig and, with Chris and Vic. So when I think it's accomplishments to what we're supposed to be talking about, and I want to thank Vic for always being there with the Zoom when I'm trying to do virtual meetings, which I can do again now, his advocacy. I wanted to thank Melanie, probably here, for sometimes the things where people are doing with the budget. I think it would be very tedious. And make sure, I'd like us to find ways to be a little bit more grateful for, as we've got a new member, I want to get to know what you're doing. I'm grateful for Kelly, and I was bringing you up to date with what's going on in the schools. That's the thing I don't want us to take away from who did this or who did that. I'm super excited that you were there, right? At least somebody was there, and let's recognize that. Just like to see a little bit more harmony and gratitude toward the operation. The fact that anybody's given up 3 hours, like I was missing the Vikings so that happened. But I at least wanted to follow the score, and if we could find ways to just get to know each other and call each other things that are going to something. I think Craig and I are the only two folks down at the heart. There's a lot of things, and the more we let each other know, to Gwen's point, I think the more friendships that this might have been a place where we can actually start to develop real relationships outside the social responsibility, understanding that's just kind of what I wanted us to think about. I don't know how to look at the big goal, other than we each just try to find one other person on the board to do something with. I think we do better board.
Thank you.
You have your hand up or you just
Yeah. I just wanted to say that we have more in common than what separates us. We clearly all have a passion for our community. So I forgot that. That was pretty much what I wanted to say.
That's a good start. Thank you. That was very good. Yeah. Real quick, one thing. And when we were talking earlier on about one-on-ones and everything, one-on-ones here too. That's how groups work better, right? So you can understand. Hey, when I was in HR, I had a person, we mostly disagreed on a lot of stuff, but we can sit and talk, and we did learn from one another. And that's a key piece, because they got through some people that I didn't. Yes?
So as I believe the newest board member here, still trying to find my way here. And listening, and learning, observing, and absorbing. Thank you for using the word gratitude, because that's what I feel about all these people in this room who are doing something, or trying to make an effort to get something done right and well, in whatever capacity. As you had just said, we have a lot to offer, we have a lot of similarities. We can look at the differences all day long. But if we look at the similarities, and I understand everything you said, and I appreciate and respect everything you just said, and everybody in the room, and everybody here matters. It's sort of their opinions. As I said, I'm just sort of finding my way here. I do like the youth group, and I just love the safety. I love to talk in their way when I see them on the street by our homes, and so I have an attitude of gratitude for the people that help other people unselfishly. Are you kidding me? That's not what it's like out these doors. It's the Wild West, and everybody knows it. So if we can take 3 hours or 3 minutes or 30 minutes, try to find some sort of solution or paddle that canoe in the same direction as everybody, God love us all for trying. And that's what I have to say about that.
Yeah.
If you want to do something, do it. Don't wait on the board. Just do it. The rally for support of Israel, the spot rabbi reached out to me. He was going to have a little thing, get together for the Jewish community. I said, let's make it a public thing. Ray was there also. And these are things that if he's way on the board meets once a month, the committees meet once a month, most of this stuff won't play out. So start organizing. I mean, most of you are community organizers in one way or another. I mean, most of the stuff I do, I don't think any of you know about. I do things in my faith community. I do things in the cancer community. It's ongoing. You just need to do, what you do here has some relevance. And you have to make it relevant. But what you do outside of here can be even more relevant. And hopefully you can bring it back here, or people will see that you're doing it. I mean, if your daughter, I know your daughter was very involved with I can't say the word. Animal shelter. And it's great. When I want the word, it's not there. I mean, the thing is, she's passionate about it. She does it. You get reports about it. It's a good thing. She could do that without the board. That she's the liaison for that is a great thing. But you have to go out there and do it yourself. And that's where, when you look around this room, I know a lot. When I talk to you, you're all doing things that are of interest to you. And it may come into the board, it may not. Just because you don't get buy-in from the board doesn't mean you can't do it. In fact, if you don't get buy-in from the board, you should go ahead and do it anyways.
Well, I don't think it's written anywhere that everything has to go through the neighborhood council. So you're absolutely right. It's a fluctuating thing. You have different things out there.
You just have to be careful when you're doing that you aren't speaking for the neighborhood council.
Right, exactly. So that, I don't think has been anywhere advocated. You can't be out there doing your own thing, but this council has and can have an impact and influence. That's what you want to cultivate here, okay? You had your hand up and now come back to Ray.
What I just heard from Thomas, Abby, and Larry are probably the most impactful things I've heard this whole afternoon. Gratitude in remembering that and respecting people. But I just want to point out that Ray has been at the helm of leadership for a long time. And sometimes it's lonely at the top. And he gets the abuse, he gets the attack, people don't like the way he's running things. And he has a responsibility. He knows out in the community that people know he's president of the neighborhood council and that he's a commissioner on a couple of commissions. And he knows this. And myself, and I have to keep myself in check because I'm not a board member, but I am associated with the board and I am a city commissioner. And so I know that I have to kind of like watch my P's and Q's sometimes. And we're not perfect. We all make mistakes. We all can admit, oops, I kind of stepped in it on that one. And to me, I'll respect somebody more for saying, I was wrong, or I could have done that a better way, or thank you for sharing because I didn't see it that way. Okay, I don't want a board of yes people. Okay, I want to hear some opposing views. I just want to point it out in a respectful, not finger-pointing kind of way, and to understand, okay? Yeah, the minority, as you say, sometimes will feel like nobody's hearing them. Feel like that in this election. But I want people to remember that Ray takes this seriously. He calls this retreat because he sees a problem. He sees that I won't say problem, he sees that we can improve. I'd rather approach it that way, that positive approach. We have committees, we have people on the committees we care about. That's why they signed up for those committees. But their time is involved with other things. Kelly's got, teaching things, and Thomas is a professor, and Abby's in school. We all have stuff going on. You can't be a to acknowledge, and I really, really appreciate the mentorship of somebody like Ray, okay, who has to put up with some nonsense sometimes because he cares about the community and he cares about his board, okay? He cares about individuals, whether you believe it or not, okay? He would like to mentor every individual to find your best self, to give it to the board, okay? And we evolve at different levels. So Ray, I thank you for continuing to take on this role. You have a lot of other things, especially the two commissions that you're involved with, which you haven't which are a bigger picture, but you haven't let go of that smaller community thing that is so important to you. And I thank you.
Thank you.
I agree.
Okay, but before I come to Ray, so you were mentioning, if there's something in your community that has to get done, then take the lead and do it. You go home right now, and in your block, there's a huge tree that's falling in the middle of the street. Who are you going to call?
Ghostbusters.
Thank you! Back in 2000, I began to push that for the city, and you would be surprised, or maybe not, how many people do not know 311 is your go-to to get the ball rolling, right? So thank you. You just made my day. Great.
So,
I thought it was Ghostbusters.
2:45, I really want to respect all your time for being here today, so let's see how we can get out of here. This last agenda item, year-end outcomes, this is what I gathered, and this is what I'm going to ask of you. I identified 6 things that I heard during the course of the whole meeting, and I'm going to kind of use that as plan B. But what I will do during the course of the week is that I'm going to contact each committee chair and ask if they could maybe think about one accomplishment so that we can gain some type of feeling that we accomplished something that we can document. I mean, Gary will know this. I know it. Some of you who work bureaucracies and things like that, it doesn't happen, it doesn't exist if you don't document it. Mm-hmm. So if we can document an accomplishment from every one of our committees, that'd be so good. And I see Cynthia laughing because I'm sure.
I'm home yes to write an essay now.
But I know from your work that you obviously had outcomes that were expected of you, right? So anyway, I think we all in one way or another had outcomes that we had kind of expect from each other. So if I'll write the email, I'll ask you if you within the next, is it reasonable to say within the next 2 weeks come up
Before
with
the board meeting.
that accomplishment? And we'll maybe use that as our gauge. And then we'll agree, maybe, formally that those will be it for our community. And then maybe next year, whoever finds leadership in this capacity can go and ask for 2 accomplishments, and just expand and grow bigger. I really want to thank each and every one of you today for being here on a Sunday. I really hope that the Vikings, get up there and they do what is expected by Thomas. I don't want to miss NASCAR, so I'm really, he has a bunch of left turners, right? That's all it is. But man, I can't stop from watching NASCAR.
I have a couple of final comments before you close that I'd like to make. Okay. It's just for house cleaning.
Okay, so we all sacrificed to be here, and I want to thank each and every one of you for being here. I want to thank each and every one of you for identifying a need by our specific internal communities to be able to vote on the fact that we're here today on a Sunday so that we don't interfere, and at this time frame, we don't interfere in the need to respect each other's religious responsibilities. So I think that says a lot for who we are, and identifying who our very much important community is ourselves too. So with that, it's 2:49. If the two comments from Melanie can be maybe a minute, we can get out of here
It'll be quick.
early.
It'll be real quick.
We can get out of here early.
First thing.
And thank you for being here from all of us.
First thing is, there's a lot of food left. So with that being said, unfortunately, we don't have to-go containers, so if somebody wants to take the rice or take the beef and broccoli or mix it or whatever, hallelujah, have it. You know, because I don't know where else it's going to go.
We use them for the farm. I mean, we do have staff here today.
How many staff, though?
There's probably somebody. There's at least one person here to.
There's
for
a
us,
huge
and then
salad
one down
over
at,
there,
at the
and
gym.
there's beef, broccoli, all that. So if anybody wants stuff, they can do it. There's a couple of containers that are over there to put some stuff in that were emptied from the other food. The other thing is our board meeting going to be the 15th instead of, and did we get a minute taker? Because I know Cheryl can't do the 15th. If you want me to take that boring year of finding somebody and working with Cheryl to get somebody, I can do that.
Would you be so kind?
Okay, I will do that. Huh?
The other alternative to that is a little nasty, but somebody could keep just basic notes and Vic keeps full counts, and I can do them from the report.
What if Vic has the recording and you do it off the
She just said.
Well, somebody take notes though.
She said, and Vic has the recording, so she could do it off the recording.
Take notes, because Vic keeps good records, so I'll have that, and then I can just do a little report. John's reporting.
Does he record everything?
I wrote it down.
Yeah. And his recording is real audible that he does.
Is he going to be there the 15th?
Well, we have to, that's the other thing we have to
Okay,
work
can
on.
we
Then you gotta tell him.
We're done.
Alrighty. All done. So I will work on audio.
Meeting ended at 2:51 p.m.